if you don't know what I'm about to share with you, you're never going to scale your business. Fundamentally, business is an asset that expands based on multiplication. We're doing the same thing over and over and over again. So repetition and scale are fundamental to how a business grows. And so you have to understand how to scale yourself through others. And it's taken me a very long time to understand a very simple concept, and I'm going to share it with you. If for some reason in your company, right, you're not getting the outcome from the employees that you want, then it is one of these three things that's the issue. And I believe that simplicity, simple scales, fancy fails. And so I like to keep my framework simple. And the way that I discovered this was actually through reading Andy Grove's book, High Output Management. Really, really highly recommend. And he's one of the all-time best operators, of all time. He's the GOAT of operations. And he posited that there's two things fundamentally that every manager should do. And adding one other piece to this has been my personal experience, and so I'm adding these two together. If you don't know who we are, my name is Alex Hormozi. I own a portfolio of companies that does just under $85 million a year. We've done $120 million in the last 3 years. Let's rock into it. So how to scale yourself. So the first question that I like to ask myself if somebody is not doing what I want them to do is, do they know what I want them to do? All right. Which, if they don't, then it's a function of communication. So if someone is not doing what I want them to do, the first question I ask is like, did you know what I wanted you to do? Was it clear? And one of the rules that we have is it's not written, it never happened. All right. So if you're giving a directive to somebody, say, hey, can you do this for me? That's where you follow up with Slack, or you follow up with Asana, or you follow up with an email. Because if it doesn't exist in the digital world, there's no record of it, then it's like it didn't happen. All right. And so one of the rules of thumb is, if someone's not doing something, the first thing I ask is, do you know what I wanted you to do? And then did I personally follow up with that via email, Slack, Asana, or whatever tools you use to run your business? If that's true, if that has happened, then I follow to the next thing, which is survey, training. Do they know how to do what I want them to do? So they may know what I want them to do because I communicated it adequately, I documented it, I put it in Asana, I put it in an email, I put it whatever in Slack, so that they knew after the conversation, even though I told them that, what I expected them to do and by when, right? But if they're like, I didn't know how to do it, then I would say, okay, well, how can I help you with this? Do I need to provide a training for you? Do I need to buy a course for you? Do I need to hop on a call and explain it to you? Does another employee need to train you? Like, does your manager need to train you? Like, what needs to happen here for you to understand how to do what I want you to do? All right, so these are the first two levels of scaling yourself. First, you have clear understanding of what it is that you want them to do. And I'm telling you, this is the framework that I use when I'm thinking through this stuff. Like, if someone is not executing, I just have to think to myself, I always assume it's my fault. And then I think, okay, well, they either just don't know what I want them to do, or they don't know how I want them to do it, or, which leads me to the third one, if they know what I want them to do and they know how to do it, then why aren't they doing it? Which comes to motivation, right? And if they're not motivated, then I have to figure out why. Now, most of the time, it comes from a couple of things. And I would say that these are the most common ones that I have dealt with. The first is that they don't understand why it's important within the larger context of the company. They just feel like they're a cog within the business and they don't understand what this contributes to the business, right? One of the number one feelings that people or employees will have is they feel like what their work doesn't matter. And that's what creates, meaningless work, busy work, people who just try and look busy when they're not actually doing anything. And it's because they don't understand why you even have their role. And that means that a lot of times it's because their manager or whatever didn't do a good job communicating it to him. It's like, this is our function within the business. This is what happens if we don't exist. This is what the experience is like if we do a good job. This is what happens. This is the result. And just about every function in the business can be tied to how it contributes to the bottom line. Even if you're a more support or operations role. Like IT, if we didn't have information systems, we wouldn't know where our tracking is for anything and we couldn't make good decisions, and the business relies on high quality decisions. If we're in marketing, we wouldn't be getting new business in. If we're in sales, we wouldn't be transacting. If we're in customer service, we'd be getting chargebacks and people wouldn't be happy, right? We have to tie and make sure that everyone understands how you contribute to the bottom line, why it's important. That's the first level of understanding for motivation here, right? The second level is making sure that they're actually bought into the vision of the company. What's the mission? What are we trying to accomplish? Who are we trying to help? What problem in the world are we solving? This is something that I had to learn as our company scaled, is that some of that soft, woo-woo, like whatever culture stuff is actually really important, right? Especially as you scale, because when you scale service, especially, does anyone know what the two things that you scale are? I'll tell you what they are. It's culture and training. That is what happens when you scale decision making, all right? That is how you scale decision making, is culture and training. And the culture is going to come from telling people what they need to do and why we do it. And the training is there to make sure that they know how to do it when the time comes and they are motivated to do so, right? And so you can look at a lot of an employee and figure out if someone's not doing it, sometimes they have two of the three. So an employee, for example, that knows what to do and is motivated to do it, but not doing it because they don't know how, they'll usually pretend that they're busy because they're so ashamed of the fact that they don't know what they're doing, but they really love the company and want to help. Right? But a lot of times people don't advocate for themselves. And so we have to make sure they know how. Now, for example, an employee who is motivated and has the training, but doesn't know what you want them to do, a lot of times they're just paralyzed or starts executing on things that are not relevant. I've had this happen so many times it drives me nuts. Someone knows how to do what we want them to do, and they know why it's important, but they're executing on things that are not priorities. So they start doing extra work because they're motivated and they know how to do stuff that's valuable, but it's not contributing to anything that's moving the company forward, right? They're not executing things in alignment with where we're going as a company, right? And then the third combination would be somebody who knows what to do and they know how to do it, but they're not motivated. And this is typically, I would say, the worst scenario, which is where somebody just feels worthless. And so these people tend to check out, they're not working, they're trying to avoid confrontation as much as possible, and usually they're probably looking for other jobs. And so for me, I try to think most of the times they're not gonna have none of them, right? They're gonna have one or two of these things, hopefully, right? It's not like they don't know what to do, they don't know how to do it, and they don't know why they're even there. I've had it happen, and it's horrible, but most times there's two of the three that are there, and you just have to figure out which of the other three is missing. And that is ultimately how you can scale decision-making and scale yourself within the company. That is how you scale companies. I hope you found this valuable. Click subscribe. Use this framework when you're not getting what you want from your team. Think about, 1, it's my fault. 2, which of these 3 things missing, and how can I solve it? Keep being awesome. The reason I made this channel is because a lot of people are broke, and I don't want you to be one of them. Hit subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.